when we talk about renting, there's certain things that the law covers, and there's certain things that the law doesn't cover. So all those things up there are houses, units, flats, granny flats, shared houses, and caravans are covered. Even people who are living on a houseboat. Sometimes people they rent a boat off someone and they live down in Morningside. There's houseboats moored in the river, so we cover houseboats as well. Generally, when you're renting a house, you rent the whole of the house. You've got the full run of the house, and the person that owns the house doesn't live there. Right? So you might live there, or you and some friends might live there. We also cover rooming accommodation. Is anybody here in rooming accommodation where you just rent a room in a building, like student rooming accommodation, and you might have a common bathroom or a common dining area or a common kitchen area? Anybody got that? No?
Homestay?
Homestay? Yeah. Similar to that?
Yeah.
Homestay is only covered under our legislation if there's more than 3 rooms in the property that are used for people to live in. If it's less than 3 rooms, it becomes under what we call a board lodger. And that's just like me going and sharing a room in somebody's house. But if it's more than 3 rooms, they rent it out. So is there more than 3 rooms? Only 2. Okay, so that would be considered board lodger. So these rules wouldn't apply to you in that circumstance.
But he had a bond.
He's taken a bond?
Yeah.
Okay. Has he lodged that with us at the RTA?
No.
But did you get a receipt?
Yeah.
You got a receipt?
Yeah.
Then he has lodged it with us at the RTA. So when the bond money comes to us, we'll send a receipt out to you, and we'll send a receipt out to the person that you're renting from. It's very important that you keep that receipt in a safe place. So when you go to move out, if there's any arguments about that money or misunderstandings about the money, you can say, here's my receipt, I did pay it. And because sometimes they'll say, no, I didn't take any bond. And you say, yes, you did. Here's the piece of keep that in a safe place. Most other people are in flats. Flats? Anybody in a whole house that share with somebody else? No? Okay. So most people sort of like flats and units, yeah? Okay. Which is good, because you don't have to mow them all. Okay, so before you rent, just some basic things that you need to have a look at. You just need to make sure that the place is suitable for you. And what we mean by that is, a typical example is sometimes people will rent a house, and it gets very hot in Queensland, like it does in some other places. Sometimes people will rent a house, and they'll ring us up in the middle of summer and say, oh, this house is so hot. Does the owner have to put an air conditioner in here? And we go, well, no, they don't have to. If you rented the house out that didn't have an air conditioner, and you accepted that it didn't have an air conditioner. So if you know it's going to get hot, and you know that you want an air conditioner, make sure you rent a house with an air conditioner, because the owner doesn't have to put an air conditioner in there after you've rented the house, just because you like one. You've got to make sure it's in good condition, so have a look around the house. The law says that the owner has to make sure the property is in good condition and good repair, so that if you go out onto a balcony, that's a timber balcony, you can walk on it safely without falling through the boards, or you lean against the handrail and the handrail falls off, or you go in the bathroom and the bathroom floor doesn't collapse because of the water getting on the bathroom floor. So have a good look around before you rent something and make sure you think it's in okay condition. Make sure you can afford the rent. If there's a few people moving into a place, make sure that if one of the people decides to move out, you can still afford to pay your rent and cover it until a new person comes in. So all that basic budgeting type stuff. Ask them, is there any other costs involved? Is there costs in relation to Foxtel connected TV? Is there costs in relation to internet access with the computer, which most students want internet access when they're in an apartment or a unit. So sometimes people will see a phone point where you connect a phone to on the wall, and they will assume that the phone is connected to the property. That might not be the case. Telstra is there, so you know what, who here does not have a mobile phone? Who here does have a mobile phone? Everybody. So sometimes a lot of young people these days, they live on their mobile phones, so they don't get a landline connected to the property. And if that landline isn't used in 6 months, Telstra takes it away from that property and puts it somewhere else where they can make money from it, because they're not making money from it there because you're not using it. So just because there's a telephone point on the wall, you need to say, is the telephone connected? Because you might move in and then decide you want to connect the telephone, and you have to pay $600 to get it connected because you thought it was connected, but it wasn't. Okay? So just check things like that out. Ask any questions relative to it. You know, you might be asking, where's the local transport, where's the local train, where's the local bus, and all that sort of stuff to make sure the property suits you. And you might have to fill in an application form. Okay, that's pretty standard these days, because people are renting out a property, they might have 6 people that want to rent it, and they've got to try and choose 2 of the best people to go into the property. So it's kind of like they will want to interview you, but you need to interview them a little bit too about the property to make sure that it suits you. So when you move in, it's the most common thing is they're going to present you with this tenancy agreement or a lease, okay? And that basically, it's a legally binding document that tells you all the terms and conditions about being at the property, and that's the name of who's allowed to stay there, how long you're going to stay there, how much rent you're going to pay, how often you're going to pay rent, are you allowed to have a pet, are you not allowed to have a pet, is there any particular things that you need to do, like mowing, weeding, if it's got a pool, do you have to clean the pool, or is there a pool cleaner that's going to come in, stuff like that, you know, who to contact in if there's an electrical emergency or something like that, right? So you need to read that document very carefully. But one of the biggest problems we have with students from overseas, and it's terrific that people come here to study and to get your English language skills up there, but quite often people, if they don't understand something, they're a bit embarrassed to ask. Has anybody had that experience? Yeah? Okay, you're a bit embarrassed to ask, and you might be a bit reluctant. You go ahead and sign something anyway, and you're not 100% sure what you're signing, okay? Sometimes we have that situation where people go, when something happens later on, they go, I didn't know. So if you don't know, the rule is do not sign it, okay? Ring us and ask us. Ring a friend who might have better English language skills and get them to read it. Or go to someone in your university, a student officer or something in your university or your QUT, and ask someone to read it before you sign it. It's very important because that is a legally binding document. Once you've signed it, it's there. You get a copy of the document. So when you get the lease, they should give you a copy of the lease. You need to keep your lease and your bond receipts and anything related to the property. You need to keep them in a folder in a safe place. So you're going to need them eventually down the track somewhere. So many people come to us and there's a problem. We say, where are your documents? And they go, oh, I don't know. I just lost them. They were wrapped up and thrown out or something. Really important to keep those documents. You know, you might need to arrange the connection of electricity, gas, telephone, internet. As I said before, ask if all that's included. Sometimes your rent will include all that sort of stuff. Sometimes it doesn't. So make sure you're clear on that with them before you sign the document, what you've got to pay for. Yeah?
Sometimes the electricity and the reality, RTA, they take a loan. Does it relate to that?
No. The bond that gets sent to us is for the property. With electricity and gas companies, they might also ask you for a security deposit, and that's for them. So that's outside of us. That's just they sometimes ask you for that just in case if you leave and don't pay them, they've got some money there to sort of pay for your account. So the bond that the landlord takes over the property comes to us. But it's your electricity and gas that if those companies ask you for a security deposit, then you just pay that to them.
Sometimes they say it's related to RTA.
Yeah, totally different to us. Different to us. So you might have to pay, say, $2,000 bond for the property. But when you connect the electricity company might say, oh, bond or something like that, or they usually call it a security deposit. That's just in case you don't pay your electricity account. Okay, but it's different to our bond. Everybody wants guarantees, don't they? We want your money to guarantee you're going to pay us our money. If you're in a rooming accommodation, you might have house rules. House rules are typically things about noise, about smoking, about whether you can or cannot drink in the premises, about guests that you can bring back to the premises. It might be about keeping the kitchens clean and stuff like that. Okay, so if you get rules, you need to read them carefully and acknowledge that you understand them. So when you move in, this is a very important document. The person you rent from gives you a form that tells you what the condition of the property is. So bathroom, clean, tidy, 2 broken tiles and crack in the shower screen. Okay? So they're going to walk through and do that. Oh, there's a mark in the carpets, I'll write that on here. There's damage and marks on this wall, so we write that down here. Yeah, oh, carpet's torn over there going into the bedroom. So anything that's wrong with the place, they need to write that on this document, right? And it's in 2 halves. Their half over here, they write it down. When you get the document, you then also need to go through the property and mark on and say whether you agree with what they've written or whether you don't agree. And if you find something else that's wrong with the property, you need to write it on that document, because if you don't, guess what's going to happen when you move out? They're going to say, oh, there's a broken piece of glass over there. If you didn't put that on the document to say it was like that when I moved in, they're going to ask you to pay for it, right? But if you can prove by this document that it was like that when you moved in, then you're all okay. All right, so we say to people, go through the house very, very, very carefully with your magnifying glass and write down everything. If there's a chip in the sink, if you're in the bathroom sink and there's a scratch in the bathroom sink, write down scratch in the bathroom sink. Don't just go, oh, yeah, that's okay. Write down everything, absolutely everything. And if you have to, get your phone, take a photo, photos of everything like that. Right? Write down everything, because a lot of people that rent a property to you, at the end will try and get money from you to say, oh, you damaged that. You go, it's on this form. Okay, so it's a really very, very important thing to do.
So it's even unclean. I mean, especially the fans, the kitchen fans, especially they didn't have a lot.
Yep.
So it's unclean as
unclean. And the form usually says, is it clean, unclean, damaged, or undamaged? Yeah. You know where your windows right in the track like that, open your window up. Have a look in there, because that's one of the first things when you're moving out. They'll come in and expect you to clean in there. So you need to know, was that clean or not clean when I moved in? So look everywhere, behind the toilet, behind the doors, on top of cupboards, up on the top shelf of cupboards where you can't see because you're looking up like that. Get a chair or a ladder or something, stand there and have a look. In the garage, everywhere. Your garden shed, everywhere. Have a look everywhere. Write it all down just to make sure you protect yourself. Yeah, keep that document in a safe place. All right, so the bond money, we spoke about that. They'll give you what we call a Form 2. Yes?
I haven't done that one.
Yep.
When I moved in. So, try to do it now.
The entry condition report?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will do. So are you in a flat, a unit?
No.
Oh, with your homestay. No, don't worry about it with your homestay. Yeah, don't worry. That's not necessarily with your homestay. Your circumstances are a little bit different. Okay, so you won't need to do that with a homestay. You're safe.
It's my right. So
I think when you do it across 10 days or 1 month or something like that.
Well, they should give you the entry condition report at the time that you commence occupying the property. Okay, so we know from day one what the condition of the property is and that you both agree. Because sometimes people won't agree, because they will look at it in one way and you will look at it in another way. Okay? So it should be done on the day. They should give you that form on the day that you occupy the property. Because if they did it a week later, you could be there a week and you could have already broken something, probably accidentally, and you could remember, oh, this is broken when I moved in, and they say, oh, it wasn't, blah, blah, blah. So they should give you that entry condition report on the day that they give you the keys to move into the property. So we know right from the beginning what the condition of the place is. So we talked about your bond money. That goes to the RTA. They can only ask you for a maximum of 4 weeks of your weekly rent as protection money, bond money. And that bond money is used as protection, full protection over the property. So if you move out at the end and you owe some rent, or they need to do some cleaning, or they've got to get the walls mowed, or the pool done, or something like that, the person that owns the property has got some money to try and claim against to get those things done. All right, so, but it's interesting to know that probably 80% of when people move out, everybody's fine. Everybody gets their bond money back, there's no problems. 20%, there's 15% there's minor problems that we help them with through our dispute area, everyone's fine. About 5% have to go off to court because people don't agree. Okay? 80% of the time it's fine.
I just moved down recently in an apartment.
Yeah.
I have to problems of the relationship. But that case is from about that. Most of I always lived in different suburbs here, different suburbs. Most of the managers, they said, just we have some guys within with us, and you on today. Some guys within with us, we can't take them, can't take the other companies. But when the other companies, we just see the small, very small details about, that is core, that's especially with apartment, something like that. If you bring them guys, they be in, they're otherwise, they can allow many things.
Yeah.
I try in my apartment, I bring the first time with cheap prices, cost me 150, and he will say, oh, this is unclean, no, it's not good. I said, well, I give the key, on Wednesday, you have Thursday and Friday, I have open Monday, so that's his dirty. I said, this is not my problem, this is your problem. So it's not finished, I don't even go on in this issue. So what I see, no one is protect us from us managers to check our company, that this company will deal with this. Otherwise, we're gonna make it wrong. We're gonna report the RTA to take your bond or something like that. But I have many damages now. I don't know it. They put it in their report.
That's a very good point that you raised. When we talk about when you move out, people, and this is what particularly relates to things like carpet. Okay, when you move out, what the law says is that when you move in, it's like this. You've signed this document and you agree that the carpet's clean, bathroom's clean, this is clean. It's all written on this document. So when you live in the place, you should keep it in the same condition as close as possible while you're living in it as it was at the start. When you finished at the end, you hand it back in the same condition as close as possible as it was at the beginning. Okay, please? Like that, living it like that, give it back like that. Now, particularly in your case, you get some landlords or property managers that come in and say, it's not clean to my standard. You know what? Who cares what their standard is? What matters is, what was it like then? What is it like now? Their personal belief in cleanliness doesn't matter. Some owners and real estate agents will say, you must use our carpet cleaning company. We will only accept you to use our cleaners. They can't do that. They can suggest that they have good cleaners they can recommend to you, but you don't have to use their cleaners. You can go out and get any cleaner. You can clean it yourself, which is what many people do. As long as, once you've cleaned it, it's like that at the beginning, it's like that at the end. Some of them try and say with your carpet, oh, you have to get it professionally cleaned by a professional carpet cleaning company. That's rubbish. You don't. The standard of cleanliness of the carpet, if at the end it's the same as what it was at the beginning, it's clean. Good done.
I mean, for them, if they come after 4 years, who can say this one is like 4 years ago?
Yeah. That's what you look at that report for. that entry condition report, because when you move in, it'll say carpet clean, you move out, carpet clean.
I think say I say this one year, it's okay, it's clean, but you have the leader said not sponsor, you have to be one professional, you have to.
Yeah.
So doesn't right. Yes.
Yeah, because that's when you've got a dispute. That's when you've got, well, you're saying it's clean, they're saying it's not clean. That's when you can come to us, and we'll help, and we'll go, you'll say to the agent, well, you need to prove us that this isn't clean. Quite often they say, well, you haven't got a professional carpet cleaning receipt. We go, well, who cares? Basically, because let's say you have an apartment, you don't live there, you go there 6 times in a year, you're just storing your stuff there, okay? Because you've got too much stuff, you're rich, you've got lots of stuff. I'll put it in that apartment. Now, if you go there 6 times in a year, and that's it, and you're half an hour each time, is that carpet going to get dirty? No. So should you have to do a steam clean at the end? You've been there 6 times, it would be unreasonable for you to steam clean it. Look at this vacuum. Is it in the same condition as it was at the start of the tenancy of your vacuum? Yeah. So be careful with that, because I'll try and say to you, you must get it professionally cleaned, you must spend money to do this. You don't have to. Look at the document and look at the condition it was when you moved in, give it back in that condition. That's what the law requires you to do. Okay? Just be very careful.
In the beginning, the standard is very easy, very good. In the end, it's like, oh, this is not.
They get the ankles on the glass.
Yeah, that's right.
If they say it's not to our standard, you say, I don't care about your standard. All I care about is that it was like this at the beginning, as long as it's the same as that at the end, allowing for fair wear and tear. Because any carpet wears out over time, any paint gets accidental, that sort of stuff there. Nobody did that on purpose, it's an accident. Try and clean it off. Anybody's house is going to get stuff like that in there. Think of your mum and dad's house when you were kids. Did you guys make marks on the walls and make accidental damage at your mum and dad's house? Of course you did. I did. It happens. So the law, they ask for that, what they call fair wear and tear. If I go around and I'm angry and I punch a hole in the wall, or I kick a hole in the door or something, that's not accidental damage. Or if you have a party and people are dancing and someone crashes into something and breaks it, that's not accidental damage. That's damage that you have to pay for and repair. Okay? That's not day-to-day living stuff.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Just in regards to the tear and wear aspect. For example, I'm living in a house, the water cabinet, where we wash, we have everything.
Yeah.
I've been living there for 4 years. When I went in, it's new. The house was new. I was the first when went to there. But now the whole cabinet is being damaged by water.
Yeah.
So is that considered tear and wear, or do I have to change it once as well?
Was it damaged by water because of something you did, or just because of the design of the cabinet?
We don't need just the design, because 3 months after I moved in, it started to show some effects that it's going to be damaged. I talked to the owner, he said no, that's okay. The owner changed, the house got sold,
Yeah.
and there's a new owner. And every time he comes for inspection, takes photos, this is damaged, this is everything. So the new owner doesn't know that the old owner was okay with it getting damaged.
Yeah. You just say to them that it's nothing that we've done. People that rent out properties don't put high quality products into them generally. Okay? They put cheap stuff. They put
IKEA.
IKEA things. They put cheap carpeting. I saw an advertisement one day and it said carpet, $70 a square metre. Cheap carpet, $35 a square metre. Rent a carpet, $18 a square metre. It's rent a carpet is way cheaper than cheap carpet. Okay, so they don't put high quality stuff in places. So your example is very common. Okay, so what we look at in the end, you've got your entry condition report when you move in and that. If they dispute that in the end and want some money from you and you come to us, we look at it and what we try and ascertain, was it damage caused by you, or was it damage caused by the article just because of the design of the cheap quality? Okay? and then they want you to pay to replace it with something of really good quality. Okay, so I just remind them that, look, this has happened not because of me, just because of the design of the cupboard and everything like that. They may try and get some money from you when you move out, but that's when you come to us and we'll help you. Okay, but it's not an uncommon situation. All right. So when you live in the place, just pay your rent. As it says in your agreement, on your agreement it says you need to pay us X amount of money every Friday fortnight, or every Wednesday fortnight, or something like that, and have a date. So just pay your money when your rent is due, and everybody will be happy. You just look after it as you would as if it were your own home. You keep it clean, you sweep it out, you vacuum, you clean the bathrooms, you sweep down the outdoor areas of leaves and stuff like that. Mow the lawn, weed the gardens, but you're not. The law doesn't say, the landlord's often rings and say, who has to get on the roof and clean out the gutters? Well, the law doesn't say anything about who has to get on the roof and clean out the gutters. Generally, what the law observes is that anything that's sort of like reachable height, normal height, you would be responsible for, so maybe wiping down walls and keeping paths swept, vacuuming, dusting, all that sort of stuff. Things up on the roof, leaves and branches and things that can get on the roof, and generally considers that something that the person who owns the house needs to look after. Because can you imagine what would happen if you got up on the roof and you slipped and you fell off the roof and you fell down and you broke your back? Then the person who owns the house, it could be some sort of wild legal case, some sort of legal problem or something like that. Okay? Things like light bulbs, basic light bulbs and things like that, that's for you to replace and change and stuff like that. Right, you must not interfere with the peace and comfort of your neighbours. Has anybody been to a party like that? No? So, the idea there is it's your property. You're entitled to have your friends over, you're entitled to have company over, you're entitled to have dinner and have a good time and hang out. The same as anybody is, but as long as you don't interfere with the peace, comfort and privacy of your neighbours, loud music or parties and stuff like that. And if somebody that you invite onto your property, into your premises, does cause some damage, then you're responsible for it. So you either pay for it or you have to get the person that caused the damage to pay for it. If any maintenance needs to be done, like what you're saying with your cupboard and that sort of stuff, your landlord is required to fix that up. Okay? So is it at a state now where it's not usable or it's still usable?
No, it's still usable, but every time they make an inspection, I told them that it's been damaged since I've been moved in.
Yeah.
Nothing's been done about it. So.
Okay. Right. You might put another thing you can do is you put that in writing to them as well. You keep a copy, and so that when you go to move out, then you can say, look, I notified them of this.
Yeah, I have everything I do with emails, so I have like a reference between me and the agent.
That is excellent. That is an excellent thing to do. All right. So just if you have any maintenance needs to be done, like if your dishwasher stops working, if your toilet doesn't flush, if there's an electrical problem, if there's a broken window or something like that, you've got a responsibility to let the owner know straight away. You should do that in writing so that you've got a record of it, because quite often if you tell them, if you ring them up and tell them, they will then say, oh, I don't remember that conversation, you never told me. So anything you do with them, you should put it in writing, just so that you've got a record of it, you can say, I did do that, it did happen. If you want to put any pictures or fixtures or anything like that up, you've got to ask the landlord first, the person you rent from first. You can't just go banging nails in the wall and things like that. So ask them if that's okay. Sometimes they're okay with that, sometimes they're not. So just be careful with that sort of thing. Is anybody sharing with some other people, or are you all sort of living singly? Your families and stuff like that? Okay, yeah. Just sometimes when you get 2 or 3 people living together and they all contribute to the bond, it's very common with students that they come and go all the time. And then there's this exchange of money about who's got which share of the bond, but they quite often forget to tell us. And then when they go to move out at the end, the names that we've got sharing the bond aren't the same people that are living there anymore. Those people are long gone. So If you do get in a situation where you're sharing with other people and contributing to the bond, make sure you let us know if it changes so that we can make sure that your name appears on our records so we can give your money back at the end.
Something saying, what's the bond under 3 or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, you've got a special form, so it says, well, these 3 people own the bond, and now it's changing to these people over here. So you just exchange money in the background. We just need to know the names.
Just because most of the guys I know as a single, they live together in a apartment.
Yeah.
They just under one name, under one guy is the responsible for that.
Oh, that's even easier. That's easier. As long as that person doesn't move out and get their bond back.
That's that.
Yeah, that makes it easy. There's only one name and one bond for one property, and everybody's okay with that. That makes it a lot easier. Keys and security. So the landlord is responsible for making sure that your property is secure, so that you've got a good lock on your front door, that your windows lock and things like that. So any of your goods and belongings that you're putting into place, it is secure, as anybody would have in their own home. They've got to give you some keys. They've got to give you a set of keys for every door and device that opens in the property. So if you've got a letterbox with a key lock on it, they've got to give you a key to that. They've got a key to the front door. If you've got a screen door, they've got to give you a key to the screen door. If there's something inside the house, like the power box, and it's got a lock on it, they've got to give you a key for that. So everything that opens in the place, it's got a lock on it, they've got to give you a set of keys for that. Okay? You might have to pay for water when you're in your tenancy. Quite often what happens these days is most places have an individual meter for water. When you move in, they read the meter, and then they get a water bill, and then they'll send you an invoice to say, look, we need you to pay the water bill and everything. So it's worked out on exactly how much you've used. If you live in a place that does not have a water meter, then they can't ask you to pay for the water. They should be including that in your rent, okay? Because unless they can figure out specifically how much you have used, they can't charge you for it. They can't average it out over a number of apartments. You've got to know exactly, because you might be very water-wise, and you might take 6 showers a day and go crazy, okay? So you use a lot more water, you use a lot less water. They can't average it out, and you pay this much and you pay a reduced amount. Okay, so
just ask them, or just how can I know?
You can ask them to see the bill. They should give you a copy of the water bill, and you should be able to get a copy of what the readings of the meter were.
I like to see the meter.
Correct. Yeah.
Ask them, I want to see the meter.
Yeah, you can ask to see the meter. So it's all got to be very clear and transparent. So when I moved in, it said 00047. And at the end of this billing time, it says 00086. So I've got to pay for 47 to 86. That's what I'm paying for at the local council rate, which is 1 cent a kilolitre or something like that. Right. So you should ask to see through it for what you're paying for. You shouldn't just pay for things that someone asked you to pay for. Yeah. We've talked about that. They've got to keep it clean and in good repair. They've got to fix any repairs pretty much straight away. If you're in a rooming accommodation, they've got to give you, and when you're in a house, they've got to give you notice before they come to the house or your apartment and have a look through. They can't just turn up on one day, knock on the door and say, I was in the neighbourhood, I thought I would do a check. Come in and have a bit of a look around. Okay, so they'll give you 7 days notice if they want to come and do a general inspection. If they're coming in to do repairs and maintenance or something like that, they can give you 24 hours notice. Okay, but they can't just turn up and walk in and you expect. And if they do turn up and they say, can I come in, and you say, yes you can, I'm okay with that, then they can come in. But if you say, no, you can't come in, you haven't given me the correct notice, then they have to go away, get the correct notice, and they come back in 7 days. Sometimes there's different. They give you 24 hours notice that they're going to be a prospective buyer coming through to check it out and see if they want to buy it, that sort of thing. But generally, they've got to give you 24 hours notice. If you do something wrong in the property, maybe they come in and do a general inspection and they see a big burn in the carpet, or they see a broken window or something like that. they give you this form, and it's called a notice to remedy breach, and it's just an official way of saying, look, there's a problem at the property, and I need you to fix it. All right? So you might then want to talk to them about it, or you might agree and say, well, yeah, I had a few people over on the weekend, and we had some candles, and we went over and waxed on the carpet. Then you need to talk to them about how you're going to fix it, and you've got a certain amount of time to fix that under the law. Okay? So they're not being nasty if they give you this form. It's just the official way of letting you know that there's a problem. The same as you can give them the same form if something breaks and you need it fixed. It's the formal letter. It's your official way of saying to them, dishwasher's broken, I need you to get it fixed within 7 days. All right? So don't be offended if they give you a form. It's just an official way of talking to you, tell you that, that there's a problem. You might have a pet in there. If pets were not allowed, I'll tell you a funny pet story. One tenant moved into a property and the owner said no pets. So the tenant said, can I have goldfish? And the owner said, oh, yeah, okay, you can have goldfish. So they wrote on the form, pets allowed, goldfish. And the owner of the property came back in 3 months to do an inspection, and there was a cat in the lounge room. And he said, you can't have a cat here, this is a no pets property. And the tenant said, yes, I can. You have written on my tenancy agreement that I can have goldfish. My cat's name is Goldfish. He was allowed to keep the cat. Because it said, allowed, goldfish. Well, be careful what you write. This is why you've got to check things. Check things. Yeah, another guy had 2 goats called salt and pepper at the property. If something goes wrong, one of the biggest things that we find is communication. If something goes wrong, people are reluctant to talk, or people get cranky, or people get angry, okay? A lot of things can be solved just by people being reasonable and talking and seeing, what can we do about this? How can we solve it? How can we fix it and just keep moving along? Some people get cranky and they don't want to talk, and then they think the other people are thinking this and doing that. That's when we see it just go down and down and down, and that's when we have to get involved. Okay, so if there is something wrong, and particularly what you're doing is really good, just talk to them about that situation with your cabinet and stuff. That was here when we got here. I know it looks bad, but that just happened because it's a pretty cheap and crummy cabinets, and just get it in writing and keep your emails and just talk to them about it, and you'll probably have a good opportunity to resolve it when you move out. But sometimes people just get angry and cranky and then things go bad. Okay, so if you find that you can't talk to them, it breaks down, get a hold of us and come and talk to us. When you move out, as we said before, you moved in, it was in this condition, you lived in it in that condition, you moved out in that condition. You pay your rent up until the day that you move out. You pack up all your stuff, you get the property clean, you pay attention to all those little cleaning details. As we discussed before, it's not about their standards, it's about is it clean the same as it was when you moved in. You've got to give them 14 days notice before you move out.
Is the team bond include your renting, or you have to move before the, I mean, like we have 1 week to move out, then the 1 week cleanup, they have to come at the same week you leave, or
Generally you want the house cleaned and ready to give back to them on the last day of your tenancy. So you want everything done. So it would be unusual for you to move out and then for somebody to come in and clean the property. So you need to arrange to have all of your stuff packed, moved out, so the house can be cleaned, so that on the last day you can hand the keys back to the people that own the property, so that it's all done and done. Any days that after the last day, they could actually charge you rent for those days afterwards, because you've gone past the last day of your agreement, which says we're only going to rent it to you from here to here. You need to get everything done before midnight on the last day. All right, everyone understand that?
If there is some damage, but you don't want them to fix it, okay, just write it, and I don't want you to fix it. So don't have the right to not to tell him to not fix it, or if you told me that no, I must fix it. Because as this problem, maybe if they will fix it today, after 3 months, it will happen again. It will be damaged. So I have told him that to not change it, but unfortunately, they changed.
He can do that.
Yeah, this is I don't. This is his right to change it.
Yeah, because he might want to change it to stop anything else happening in like a reaction down the track. If he doesn't fix that, then is it going to affect something else and affect something else? So you might be happy with it. They might not. They might go, oh, yeah, look, that's okay. If you're happy with it being like that, I'm happy with it being like that. Thanks for letting me know. But they might also say, yeah, look, I know it's not bothering you, but I would like to get it fixed anyway. So some owners are quite careful and want to fix everything. Some owners are the other way. They don't want to pay any money to fix anything. They'd be quite happy for the house to fall down around you, as long as you pay your rent. Okay, so you've got a responsibility to tell them if there's something broken or if there's a problem. And they've got the choice to choose whether they will do something about it or not do something about it. But if you want them to fix it and say, look, this is inconveniencing you or disadvantaging me, I need you to fix it, then the law says they must come to fix it. Okay?
Into the report and say something untaught, like a small pen or keyboards or something like that.
Mm.
So I just probably that's what's gonna problem or something like that, and they know about it. He said, yeah, that's all right, we're gonna sign. But my point, it's my right to write it. That's just possible. Possible to happen, possible not happen. And they agree that's right. Okay, but it's my point also about that. If they don't give me a copy form, actually, what I do.
If they don't give you a copy of the entry report, that is an offence under the Act. So on the day that you move in, they've got to fill it out, and must fill it out. There's no choice. They must fill out the entry condition report, and they must give it to you to fill out your side. You take a copy and you must give it back to them. Okay?
And I signed it from front of them, and they said, just bring a copy it and scan it and send it to you, or email, or just coming through to cover it. And no one told me, no one gave me the entry report.
You don't have a copy of the
No, I don't have.
Okay, so you need to ask them for that copy and let them know that it's an offence under the legislation. I think it's $2,500 to $3,000. You must have a copy of that entry condition report. If they don't give it to you, then you come to us. It goes to our dispute area. Our disputes people will ring you and remind them of their responsibility. Okay, so they're breaking the law, so they give you a copy of it. Because that's your proof, that's your evidence. You must have that. Is there a question somewhere? No? Okay. That's just about cleaning, as we talked about. So when you move in, they give you the entry condition report. When you move out, it's your responsibility to fill out the exit condition report. Okay, so you fill it out your side, saying this is clean, undamaged, blah, 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 blah. Then you give that to them. Okay, so when you move in, they fill it out, give it to you. When you move out, you fill it out, you give it to them. To say it's all clean, it's all done, it's all groovy, and then they've got a couple of days to come in and check it out to make sure that it is as it should be. And if they've got any questions or problems, then they need to talk to you about it. So when you're going to get your bond back, and this is a funny thing with students particularly, because a lot of students when they finish their studies, they're in such a hurry to get home. They usually, once they move out of their accommodation, their flight is the next day or the day after, right? So they ring us from the airport and say, I'm on a flight in an hour. Can you send me my bond money, please? We're like, sure, I'll just jump in a cab. It's the airport, run through the airport, there's your bond money, because you're getting on the plane. You know? So you've got to allow time for this to happen, okay? If you move out, and everything is fine, it's clean, there's no problem, and they sign the form, and you sign the refund form, and everybody's agreed about how much money you get back, it could take up to 48 hours to get your money back. Okay, we prefer people have an Australian bank account. That way, if you fly off overseas, you can just put the money into your Australian bank account where you can access it. Well, sometimes people close their Australian bank accounts down before they leave the country, and then we've got to do an international money transfer and send it to a bank overseas, and that costs about $70. And that's got to come out of your bond. And da, da, da. So the easiest way is to have an Australian bank account. That way, if you're not here, we can just put it straight into the bank account. Okay? Bringing me from the airport is really bad idea. Right, so never ever sign a blank bond refund form. We see this all the time. The agent says, "I'll just sign this. We'll go down to the house and check it out, and then you can trust us. We'll give you your money back." So people sign this blank form. Oh my God, that's like signing a blank check. They can fill it out however they want. You may never see your money again. Okay. I'm not saying that they do it a lot, but it does happen, right? So unless it's the same as your agreement, your tenancy agreement when you move in, you read that form carefully. Do not sign it if you do not understand it, and do not sign it if you do not agree. And you don't agree with it. Only sign if you agree with it. Okay? All right, so that's who we are, Residential Tenancies Authority. As I said, everything we do for you is free. We're very nice people. We're very happy to help you. We've got very, very knowledgeable people in our contact centre. If you are more comfortable, go through a translate service at no cost to you. We'll pay for that. That's no problem at all. There's also another organisation called Tenants Union of Queensland. Now, they're not associated with us. They're a totally separate organisation, but they are purely focused on people who are tenants and giving you advice and giving you information and telling you how to go through certain situations or what to do in certain situations. And again, they are free. Okay, so there's plenty of stuff, plenty of free stuff there to help you and support you. Now, the other thing that we've got for you as well, when you move into your property, along with your entry condition report and your lease, the person you rent from must give you, the law says they must give you one of these information books. Okay, that's called a 17A or a 17B if you're in caravan park. So that is a quick guide to your rights and your responsibilities. I've also got one in Arabic. So that's the Arabic version of the English version of that. Okay? So I've got plenty of those over there, so please help yourself. We've got a website that's got a whole load of information on it, videos about renting, moving in, what to do while you're renting, when you move out, and everything like that. So we've just got a whole world of information at the RTA. It's all free, so you can get any of that stuff from us at any time. That's just a bit about our dispute resolution service that I talk about. We're just there to help you get an argument. We're impartial. We don't tell people what to do. We help people make decisions. And these are just your final important checkpoints. Check out the property to make sure that it suits you. Don't sign anything you don't understand. Get receipts for any money that you pay. Get a receipt for it. Okay? You need those important documents. Complete entry condition report. Keep to the terms of your contracts. Notify the RTA and the landlord if the people living in the place change. Allow time to get your bond back and never sign a blank document. And communicate. Communicate if anything's going wrong in your tenants. Okay? Right, so that's where we are if you need help. Also, folks, today unfortunately there's some fantastic RTA pencils. These will be collector's item in about 2056. They'll be very, very valuable later on. Actually, they won't. They're cheap from China. I've got some fridge magnets and I've got some figurines for you. Now these are like they light up. So if you ever get trapped in your apartment and you need help, you can signal for help out the window. Help, I'm trapped in my apartment. Alright, so please help yourself to those. I'm going to be here, that's the end of the formal presentation. I'm going to be here for a little while, so if you've got any specific questions and stuff like that, you can throw them at me. I'm very happy to answer them. Yeah. We're starting to go down that path. That's what we need. Yes.